Hello and good morning, Allie. How are you doing today?
Hi, Arrow. I'm good. Thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Oh, my God. I'm excited to talk with you because I think you're that author that we all want to be. We all want to talk about a subject that other people call taboo, but you had the courage and the confidence to step forward and say, hey, look, I've got a story here that all people can relate with.
Thank you. Yeah, the reason I wanted to do a story like this is because it's one that I wish I had when I was little. I wish that we were talking about periods openly for my entire life. So if I can contribute to that and, writing a book and speaking about it, make it a little easier for other people to talk about periods and the role they play in their lives, I hope I can add that.
What's really interesting about this is that when I picked up this book, I was instantly shot back to Ponderosa Elementary School in Billings, Montana, when we went into the library, and there it was, that book, and you know which one I'm talking about, and it changed every guy. That's what I think this book is going to do too, because we're not talking about it, but every guy is going to learn from this and hopefully find some respect for this.
Yeah, and I really think that's important because menstruation doesn't just affect the people that are having periods. It affects our entire community. If anyone is missing class, we're all harmed. If anyone's shrinking into themselves because they're feeling shame, we're all harmed, and we all need to be involved in the fight for period equity.
And what's really interesting is that this stretches up into adulthood too, because my essential job is working with every age group. And when word gets around, only because we want to share compassion, I think that compassion started when we first learned of what you're talking about, the period.
Yes. So that's why I wanted to start this story in middle school, because I think that we need the stories from the first time, or even hopefully before somebody has their first period. And that if we learn about this stuff in middle school, we're going to be advocating for our own health care throughout our entire lives.
Now, let me ask you a question, because I remember when my sister, started growing into womanhood, she was really upset that this started to happen. And I've heard that story from so many people. How do you embrace that where little girls now becoming women go, God, oh, come on. I didn't want this to happen now.
Yeah, I think what a really important point to remember is that at any age that you get your period, which we know can be as early as 8 years old, this is definitely an elementary school issue and middle school issue. It's not something that we can wait to talk about until high school. But you are still the child that you were the day before you got your period. And you're still going to be dealing with these issues with your friends as you get older and go through puberty. And so I really wanted to write this story because it was friends that got me through these tough issues in middle school, and it was laughing and really helping each other that got me through it. So I wanted to write a story where kids do not feel alone, whether it's in talking about periods at all or whether it's in advocating for the care that they need at schools. Because just like there's toilet paper and soap in the bathrooms, they need the pads. And if we see pads in bathrooms, it's going to become less of a stigmatized or shameful issue. It's just part of our normal lives that we need to deal with.
One of the invisible superstars in the story is the relationship between Helen and Gracie, and also the voice they create. So many times, so many young adults, especially in middle school, don't feel like they've got a voice. Yes, they do, and you really kind of invite them to do that.
Yeah, so there's two parts of that. So the first is that when you read this book, you'll see these girls are not born do-gooders. They are absolute chaos monsters. But what I wanted to do is write a book where, the people creating change, they're not the kids with the perfect grades. They're not the kids who are on the student council. I wanted to remind students that everybody has a voice, everybody matters, and you don't need to wait until you're a grown-up to use that voice. The other issue is that because menstruation affects everybody, we want everyone working together.
Yeah.
And through these kids, they are not only just like constructing arguments or like looking at a budget, they kind of use their chaos. They use making maxi pad cupcakes and crocheting uteruses and making t-shirts. They use all that to make people feel comfortable and have fun and draw them into the process, as opposed to it being just a facts and figures argument.
As a writer, you made it a path. You made a path that really kind of says there are moments where I can laugh, and there are moments here where I can show the compassion. I love the emotion that you put inside your paragraphs, and it's like, how and when did you decide that it's like I'm going to hit every single type of emotion in this book and make it very real, but at the same time very entertaining?
Wow, thank you so much. I think it's because at this age, I probably felt every single emotion. It felt like every single minute of every day. And so I think if we embrace that part of our childhood as authors, we can help kids through it today. Like, it's okay to feel like rage. Like, how could they not understand that this is affecting every part of my life, while also feeling like I don't want to have to talk about this with anyone? If we embrace all of that in a story, I think it can make kids feel less alone when they're figuring out how they're going to speak up, whether it's with their parents, with their school, or with their friends, about what they need and what they're feeling.
Was the principal your principal? Because, I mean, I really felt like that I was looking into the eyes of Mr. Eschler at Riverside Junior High School when you were speaking of the principal storyline.
No, so I have to say that the principal in this book, like, she really empathizes with the kids. She realizes that they need the pads, but she also knows she's fighting for everything at school, right? And so what I wanted to do is have a principal that really is seeing that, what they're going to spend their political capital on as principals, right. It's limited. And so they have to decide what they're going to fight for. And so I think sometimes it has to be the kids getting in their faces and saying, this is what's important to us. It might be easier for you to get funding for like yet another sports team if that's what the parents are asking for. But we're telling you that what we need is pads in the bathroom so that we can take care of ourselves.
God, you bring up so many. See, adults need to read this book too. This is not just for YA readers, because you're stirring up so many memories of what we went through in our own schools, and I think this is such a connection.
I really hope that's the case too. So I'm really lucky that Scholastic is not only publishing this book, but they've sent me around the country to talk to thousands of people about this issue already before the book even comes out tomorrow. And what I found is that so many adults have told me that it has affected them. It's brought up these issues for them, and that they have used it as an entry point to talk to their own kids. What I found is that sometimes it's easier to talk about things when we're kind of doing it through a character versus bringing on those I statements. And so I hope that parents can say, hey, at some point I might have felt like that Gracie in this story, or I might have felt like Helen, where I didn't want to talk about my period at all. And if we're laughing about silly sweets like maxi pad cupcakes and silly crafts like crochet uteruses, sometimes things are easier to talk about for parents and kids when it's yarn and sugar rather than the stark facts about menstruation.
You talk about everything what you just said, and that's what makes it more community and more open to talk about. But we are living in this woke world. Do you fear that right now, that someone in Florida is going to say, oh my God, Allie wrote this book?
I would really hope not. What we've seen is that because this is a student-led movement, students are speaking up for their rights. In the last couple of years, we've gone from a handful of states that are providing pads in bathrooms to now half the states in America are either providing funding for the pads or requiring that the pads be in the bathroom. And that's because it is a student-led movement, students speaking up for their rights. So if someone is going to come against that, they're going to find themselves up against elementary, middle school, and high schoolers who are saying, we are not going to accept that shame that you're putting on us. This is part of our daily lives. We need this care to get our education, and we're not going to stand for anything less.
God, I love where your heart is. Let me ask you a question. All right, you talked about going around and talking to people about this. Is there a website? Because this is still a very private issue for many young women, and they need someone to talk to or to find information.
Sure. So if you go to my author website, it's Terese.com. That has all kinds of resources, both about the book, if you want to connect with the activities that you find in the book, and it can also connect you with other groups that are working on this. I'm just going to mention, too, because if you care about this issue and you're a young student, you are not alone. There is already someone in your community working on it, and you can connect with them.
Nice.
The first is an organization called the Alliance for Period Supplies. The second is another nonprofit called Period. Like a period. If you look into those organizations, they'll be able to help you find who is working on this issue on the ground where you live. And then working with your trusted adults, whether they're your parents or teachers, you can figure out the best way for you to get involved.
Wow. Allie, you've got to come back to this show. 10 minutes was not enough time with you.
Thank you so much, Arrow. I love talking with you about this today, and I want to thank you personally so much for being out in front on periods and making it something that everybody can talk about.
Absolutely. Be brilliant today, okay, Allie?
Thank you.